Hello, welcome back to another coloring page that we're going to do together from our Mexican Treats coloring book. This book we put together, my husband and I. He's a Mexican national, and he couldn't find anything that really represented the culture of Mexico to our daughter. We created this book as inspiration for her she's 2 years old, so she's just learning to color. And so we made a bunch of bold and easy coloring pages for her that will be very easy for her to color, but also so she can learn about her Mexican heritage. And this book is full of traditional Mexican treats, and so we're going to pick one page and color it together today. I've already got my cardstock. I picked out this one. This is the page we're going to do. We've got all our Mexican candies as inspiration, and we have one of these candies right here. It's the little manita. Paleta de Manita. You can see there's a reference on each page telling you what the candy is or the treat is. And so we've got our inspiration right here. I have my favorite mug with coffee in it. This is my Dia de Muertos cup. And we're actually coloring from Mexico today. So I'm going to use this candy as inspiration, and let's open it up so we can actually see what it looks like on the inside. Okay. Now each of these candies has like a little saying on the inside. It's like a fortune telling. So let's see. I'm trying to read that. Anyway, it's okay. There's supposed to be a fortune on the inside. We have these here. They have different sayings, but look, this has got some swirls in it. It's got this nice red color. So let's use that as our inspiration. It's very shiny, so we will want to pick some colors that are lighter so that we can have the highlights as our base, and then we can go back over and fill in the rest of the manitas with deeper, richer colors to give it more of that depth that it really is, but also keep the highlights. So let's see, let's look at our color swatch here. Today I'm using the Chotun 120 set of the alcohol markers, and these markers are very affordable. There are creators that use some very expensive alcohol markers, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it doesn't matter how expensive your markers are. It's much more accessible than some creators would like to have you believe. So let's take a look at our swatch here. Wow, look at all these colors. Okay. I definitely think we're gonna want number 2 as our deep color. But what colors are gonna be on our lighter side? Ooh, how much highlight do we really want to give? I'm thinking maybe we even go as light as 7. I know this is not anywhere close to the deep color, but if we want to have a highlight color, let's start with 7 as our base. And then we can go over with, let's see, maybe 15. And then for our shadows, we can do 2. That's what I'm thinking right now. So let me grab those. So number 7. I hope I don't regret this. It's pretty light. But we are just playing around, right? So 7, 15 I said, and then 2. So, okay, let's put that back. Here's our little inspiration here. We're going to put that right over here. And then we've got these colors. Okay. 7, 15, and 2. All right, let's start. Hopefully I don't regret this. You're coming with me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start with the brush tip. These pens have dual-sided tips. One is a fine tip and one is a brush tip. Brush tip is great for when you're doing larger areas. It can cover it really fast. Fine tip is great for details or small areas that you really need to get in there. But I'm going to start with this brush tip so I'm really just going to cover this whole thing because I want to create this as a base. Look, I already went outside the lines. Oh, I'm going to fix that later. Don't worry. I'm going to fix that later. I'll show you how to fix it. I was not careful. That's okay. That's part of learning and growing. And it's okay to make mistakes. Nothing is so serious that you can't make a mistake. Okay. Here's our base color. I'm going to color this one too. Same color. Try to be more careful on the side. There we go. There we go. Now these alcohol markers sometimes will bleed. So that's also why these bold and easy images are great. Because see, look, I didn't even go outside the lines here. I just got too close and it bled outside the lines. But that's okay, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it, don't worry. We're gonna fix that. I promise. I promise we're gonna fix it. Okay, so that's our base, right? Now we put this really light color as a base because see how shiny this is? So shiny. And really, in order to keep those highlighted areas, yes, we're going to add some white highlights at the end, but I also wanted to make sure that we had some broader, lighter areas to keep as these lighter highlight areas, and we can fill in with the darker, more rich colors around it, because with these alcohol markers you can only layer on top light to dark. If you start with dark, you can't make it lighter, and so that's our technique here. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have these two other colors, 15. I'm going to go with 15, and then we're going to end it with the shadows and the darkest colors here. So what I'm noticing is, let's say I want my light source coming from here, okay? So if my light source is coming from here, that means sort of the top of each of these grooves are lighter. So what I'm going to do is fill in the darker colors around the bottom of these, I guess, where the divots are. So let's try it. Let's So I'm going to use the fine tip so I can be a little bit more precise. And I'm going to fill in like this. Okay. These little areas are kind of shadows, and then thinking that this next section, the light is going to reflect off the top, right? So I'll then create more shadow on the bottom. Okay. And again, more shadow on the bottom, because this section is gonna also have some light reflecting. Okay. There we go. It's looking like it has more depth now. More depth, more depth. I'm gonna go around this because it looks like there's a little bit of a shadow around, just around the whole thing, because it curves, right? So it curves, so there's a little bit of a shadow around the top. And then we are going to create shadows for each section. I can always make those a little bit bigger, but I just want to be a little bit conservative in the beginning. Okay, again, we've got this side is going to have some shadow, and then again, fill in some of these areas here. Again, shadow. Actually, for this one, maybe I will use the brush tip. That'll give it a nice, smooth area. There we go. Now again, with these letters, there's going to be some shadows around the letters. And in fact, it looks like it's kind of an indentation around the letters. Oops, I'm going to use a fine tip for this one, especially, this one has very thin lines. But it's okay. It's not going to be so critical. But let's try it. See what we can do. We're just having fun. So everything is an experiment. That's what life is. There's no such thing as failure. There is no such thing as mistakes. Only experiments. Everything in life is an experiment. Try it. See what works. That's what I always say. That's the philosophy. Experiment. You do enough experimenting, you find out what works for you. You find out what... Actually, this is not bleeding as much as I thought it was going to, so this is great. Look at that. That's excellent. Okay. Let's take another look here. Let's take another look. All right. Okay, yes. We have some shadows that we need to put here. Okay. And I feel like maybe what we want to do is fill in a little bit of this. there's something about, I think there's a little bit more richness of color there. I think I'm going to close in on some of these highlights. I'm going to go back in a little bit. So that those areas aren't quite so big. It's all an experiment, right? Everything in life. That's what I always say. You can ask my husband when he asks me a question like, what do you think about this? I always say, I don't know, try it. It's an experiment. Okay, look at that. All right, let's do on the other side too. We're gonna create the shadows. And then again, the shadow, even though the light is coming this way, I've noticed when we are working with this thing, there's a little bit of a shadow on the edge because of how it curves. And then the highlight is a little bit more right there. So when we go back in with our white gel pen at the end, I'll point out where that highlight should go. Okay. There we go. All right. Now I am going to use the brush tip this time because I didn't like, when I went back over, see how I mentioned before in another video, when one area of your marker dries before you have a chance to go back over again, it may create this line. So what I'm going to do on this side is try to get that whole area in one swoop before it dries so that it blends a little bit better. All right, let's try it. Because I'm using the brush tip, it's going to be pretty smooth, I hope. Okay. There we go. Okay. See how that's a little bit more smooth? Now, I can go back over this and say, look, I think this should be an even deeper, darker shadow. Actually, I do believe that. So let's make it a little bit darker, and that will help, blend it in, I think. That's okay. Like, this is all learning. Actually, that looks like a nice gradient. Okay, there we go. That turned out quite better than I expected with the little bit of a gradient. But you can see the two different styles. Now, we're going to go in and outline these words because, as I mentioned, because of the way it's embossed, I guess you could say, the areas around the words seem to be deeper and have a lot of shadows. So let's look at that and create some shadow around. El amor está cerca. That is your fortune for today. It's like your little fortune-telling cookie. But it's a fortune-telling candy. It's like a palm reading. That's what it is. It's a palm reading. Here's what this palm says for you. Okay. Love is near. Love is near. Okay. There we go. Actually, I quite like the shadow. Maybe I'm gonna go in again and do another shadow layer right here, because when we fix that, I actually do like that second layer of shadow. There it is. That's exactly what I wanted. All right. Now that we've done that, we're going to take an even darker color. This old red. Haha. We're going to do even darker shadows. So this other color was sort of like the main color. We've got the lighter color as our base for the highlights. And this middle color was sort of like, this is the real color of the candy. And now we're going to go in and put in some deeper shadows. So I'm going to use my fine tip, not the brush tip, because I want to do some details here. And like I mentioned before, if our light source is coming from this direction, then the shadows are going to be at the bottom of each of these little sections here. There we go. We're getting a lot more depth. A lot more depth. Look at this. I love it when these images start to pop off the page. I have to tell you, I hadn't really colored in a really long time until my daughter arrived. And when I was younger, I took a lot of different art classes, and my mother was a really talented, she was just extraordinarily talented artist, just naturally. Anything she tried, she did really, really well. And when she would take art classes, I would learn also. I would either copy what she did, or I would just learn some techniques from her. And, being in corporate world, I really just lost a lot of that guess there's just so much time and I was too busy. But since becoming a mother and having a 2-year-old, I'm coloring with her. I'm painting with her. And it's all of these things that I learned as a child or as a young adult, teenager, I guess. It started coming back up, and it's so meditative and it's so enjoyable that, maybe if you've been caught up in the grind of the rat race and think, well, all these things are waste of time or silly. I did. And now I'm doing it because it is something that I can do with my daughter, and actually it's very therapeutic, believe it or not. When you're coloring, you can really tune out the rest of the world. It is a form of meditation. It really is. Who doesn't want to break from stress every now and again? So I would encourage you to just pick up a book or even just a sketch pad and doodle something. Anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get some of that creativity out. And if you want to color along with me, I'm always here. You can come color with me. Now, yes, I'm going to go back over this shadow. Little more shadow. There we go. Give it another layer of depth here. Sometimes just even layering with the same color gives even a darker color. So you don't even have to switch. Now let's go around these letters. Give it a little bit more shadow. This is why the fine tip is really great. Look, don't think you need to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not doing this perfectly. But what I do like is, and this goes back to my style of artistry, is I like sort of sketch. I like to sketch it a little bit. So I love texture. I love depth. Some people like it when their drawings or the colorings are really smooth, but I find what works for me is doing sort of these small strokes like you're sketching. And you'll find your own style. And that's okay. Here, what I'm going to do is add some dark shadow up here like we did on the other hand. Okay. Now, one thing I think I'm going to do is go back over with the lighter color. Okay, and maybe that can blend things in. This is an experiment. Let's see what happens. That'll give that highlight color a little bit more, like a little bit more of this kind of blend it in, and then we can, what we can do is add highlight white colors for the reflection, which is going to look really great. And I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques for the white as well, so that we can experiment and see how well it works. Okay. All right. So we did that. I've got these hands that have a lot of depth to them, and then let's see. Okay, our inspiration is here. So I'm going to experiment with something, and this is a technique that I've seen done, but we're going to see how it works here. Let's experiment. So what we can do, we've got our white gel pen by Jelly Roll. It's a size 10, which is a thicker one. I think you can maybe even get thicker, but you can get thinner versions as well. But I'm going to use this one. Now, for these fingers at the top, we're going to put some highlight, right? But what we can also do is kind of bring it down. Look at that. So it's not just a line, it's actually sort of a broader area that's reflected, which I actually think gives it, that's a bit kind of what is happening here, right? It's not just a line, there's some a little more of a surface area to where that reflection is happening. Okay. Put that back here as our inspiration. Look at that. That's looking pretty cool. I didn't know how that was going to work out, but it's working out. Now, we can go back in and what I think I'm going to do is actually add a line, okay, because I do think there is some actual reflection going on here. But now we have both. We have the highlight and we have the general reflection. So let me see. Let's go back over here. This one is going to be really awesome. There we go. Okay. Okay. Now we're starting to get somewhere. All right. What do you think about that? Is it looking pretty close? What we may do is put another reflection at the bottom here. Let's see. Just smear that one. Okay. It's amazing. All right. Okay. There we go. There we go. We're going to do the same over here. Now, what do you think? Should we go back over and do the white over the top again? Or should we leave it like this? We can try leaving it like that and seeing what happens. We can compare the two. That's a great thing about this page, is we can try both and see what we like. This is a great experimentation page. Look at that. I quite like that, actually. Let's leave it like this. We're going to do this side. Okay. Sorry for that noise. We have this one underneath. And then we will go over these ones. Oop. Maybe smearing that wasn't a good idea. Okay, we're just going to go over the top. What I can do is just pat them. There we go. So they're not so bright. There we go. There. Now let's see, what we can do is add some definite lines here. This is a different style that I'm doing, so we are adding highlights around instead of within each. So here we go. We have two different styles now, and so you can judge whichever one you like better. Okay. Now, those are two different techniques. We still need to fix some of these mistakes. Oh, I told you, I'd promise you that we are going to fix that. So what I'm going to do here is go over it with my white pen. Is that cheating? No, it's not cheating. That's what you can do. Not cheating at all. Look. You can fix any mistake here. If you go outside the lines, or if the colors bleed outside the lines like they did for me right here, you can fix it. There you go. Okay. Yes, I will fix this one too. It's tiny. Okay. Look. Now we still need to do this one. We need to do this. So what we will do is pick out just a little gray color. Maybe something really light gray. Like this CG3. CG2, CG. Let's do CG2 and then shadow with CG3. Okay, CG2 for the main color. Now, would you like it better if I went over, I think I'm going to like it better if I went over some of these words again. Not the whole thing, but similar to this one where it's sort of like we just highlight maybe the top of the letters. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay, there we go. And while this is drying, now we have the darker gray. We have the darker gray. I'm going to do the fine tip and just draw on one side to give it a little bit of shadow. Okay, and then maybe underneath here too for some shadow. That's right, we need to do a little under here for shadow. Here we go. Ta-da! We are all done. Now, looks pretty good. Yummy. Those are two different techniques. Now you can see which one you may want to try. Okay, you learned how to smear some of these. These ones look slightly different because of how I did the highlights. And you can now take a bite of your candy. Thank you for joining me today. We colored this beautiful page from our book, Mexican Treats Coloring Book. Again, if you want to come color with me, you can pick up this book on the Amazon, and make sure that you find the Giggly Goo art book. There are copycats, but this is the authentic one. 50 bold and easy pages. There's also a secret extra 50 pages that you can download from the inside, and this is the page that we did today. I really thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.